it's about reverse engineering the goal. First of all, I want companies to be thinking a percentage of gross profit, not gross revenue. Unless you're a professional services company or a SaaS company, percentage of gross revenue is inappropriate. Second, I want them thinking what percent of overall business development is it? And then how is that broken down between sales, salaries, all comp, like total cost of client acquisition includes the humans that are selling and closing deals and marketing in business to business. Messaging has to go on a journey because the buyer goes on a journey. The first time somebody is checking you out, researching you, even if it's on a referral, that is very different than what sales needs to be saying at the end of a sales process and when they're getting closer to closing. So we love deploying something called sales mapping.
Dacia, what types of businesses benefit most from bringing on a fractional CMO?
Oh my gosh, great question.
You are listening to the Best Sellers Podcast, presented by Doug Dvorak, where the focus is elevating your sales game. The Best Sellers Podcast, your ultimate destination for winning sales strategies.
Welcome to the Best Sellers Podcast, where elite performers, visionary thinkers, and high-impact leaders pull back the curtain on what it really takes to drive success in sales and in life. I'm your host, Doug Dvorak, founder and managing principal of the Sales Coaching Institute. This podcast goes beyond the script. We're diving into conversations with best-selling authors, powerhouse entrepreneurs, C-suite executives, and industry disruptors who don't just talk about sales success, they indeed live it. Each episode is packed with unfiltered insights, actionable strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Whether you're leading a sales team, closing your next big deal, or leveling up your leadership, this podcast is your ultimate playbook. Because here on the Best Sellers, we don't just celebrate the wins, we unpack the how behind the hustle. So buckle up, your next breakthrough starts now. Today on the Best Sellers Podcast, I'm very excited, honored, and privileged to welcome marketing powerhouse Dacia Coffey with the Marketing Blender. Hi, Dacia.
Hey, Doug, it's great to be here.
Great, thank you. Dacia, she's the CEO of the Marketing Blender, a top-tier B2B marketing agency and a leading advocate for aligning marketing and sales to drive real business growth. Named one of the most influential women in B2B marketing, Dacia brings insights, fresh perspectives, and proven strategies that helps companies amplify their brand and accelerate revenue. Get ready to dive into the current state of marketing in 2025 and discover the game-changing benefits of hiring a fractional CMO. And Dacia, I can speak from authority because we hired you at an organization where you came in and did an unbelievably exhausted end-to-end digital marketing strategy, customer buyer personas, and it was just a pleasure to work with. The investment was very reasonable for the value derived. So take this, listeners, bestsellers. She's been vetted not only by the associations and her clients, but as a former client. Dacia is the real deal. Again, thank you, Dacia. It's a high honor and privilege. We're going to talk today. The title of the podcast is Marketing Rewired, how sales pros can win in 2025 with you and the Marketing Blender. But at a macro view, what are some of the things you're seeing in the marketing landscape in 2025?
Yeah, well, let's start with the Captain Obvious component, but it needs to be said. Obviously, cold calling is getting harder and harder and is almost dead. Not completely dead, but between spam bots now showing up in our doggone text and just the overload of cold email, it is so difficult. So many, and especially the higher up the C-suite you go, no matter the size of the company, pretty much everybody is being extremely protective of their time. So it's very, very difficult. The other thing, and this has been happening for a long time, so again, Captain Obvious, but it's critical, is that buyers are 70 or more % of the way through before they will talk to a human, through their research. So they are making pre-buying judgments And so when they talk to you, they already have a hunch whether they're going to pick you or whether you're helping them to get the price down of their favored vendor or partner. And so this is really, really important because sales needs to start being highly aware and in tune with what happened before they met you and why they're hopping on a call and what they're expecting, because they are expecting to start in the middle of a conversation. So if a salesperson is, and I'm sorry, wasting their time by asking questions that both parties should have been able to answer because of mastery and research, you ain't going to win that deal, right? And so you really need to be predictive and prescriptive in how you guide partnership. And I like the phrase paving a path of progress, because that is the level of expectation nowadays that B2B buyers are bringing is don't waste my time. Like this better progress me. But when it does, holy cow, it's such a competitive advantage because not a lot of people are great at this right now. So I think it's a huge opportunity.
Great, thank you. Typically in an organization, the CFO, when they hear another revenue rabbit hole, but I'm a big believer that push marketing is so Flintstones, and you have to have a really well-developed digital marketing strategy or an overarching branding strategy. Can you talk about some of the investments, salespeople, but at a higher level, what organizations should be investing? I've read it should be 1% to 5% marketing spend or investment of their overall revenues. Unpack sort of what should companies spend and how should they spend it to really do what you're suggesting?
I love it. Okay, couple different things. I love great CFOs because once they hear clarity around return on investment, they will become a major advocate for marketing. It's just that they speak the language of finance, and marketing has not been taught how to translate finance into humans. So I am so passionate about this. And it's about reverse engineering the goal. So a couple different things. First of all, I want companies to be thinking a percentage of gross profit, not gross revenue. Unless you're a professional services company or a SaaS company, percentage of gross revenue is inappropriate, right? Like cost of goods sold and cost of sales, anything above the accounting line is bloated revenue. And so to take a 10% chunk off of gross revenue is absolutely absurd, except for some professional services and some SaaS companies where their upfront investment has been reduced and now it's the cost of people, right? And even in some scenarios, that's not appropriate. So gross profit is much healthier and it is dependent on the health of the company, right? So a CFO does need to be practical about, okay, what can and should we spend in order to achieve? And right now it's a collaboration. So sneak peek, in 2026, we're going to be actually launching a study and a survey that will specifically prescribe the trends that we've seen around what percentage of gross profit, but the results are not out yet. So we've still got a decent amount of analysis to do, but a really healthy conversation around gross profit alone can be a game changer. Second, I want them thinking what percent of overall business development is it? And then how is that broken down between sales? And yes, I include sales, salaries, all comp, like total cost of client acquisition includes the humans that are selling and closing deals and marketing, right? So I want to see a comparison between how much are you spending on sales versus how much are you spending on marketing. For most B2B companies, it's going to be like, right? And so then the expectations and the culture that surrounds that, when you're marketing, when you're only spending 2% of your total acquisition costs on lead gen, and the salespeople are just sitting around waiting for leads, so inappropriate. So if marketing is supposed to be feeding quality leads, okay, then that percentage needs to be balanced out. And a lot of times you can find a lot more efficiency and a lot of ROI. So I know a lot of people aren't going to love that, but I want a global look and a unified look by leadership on what are the real numbers: total cost of acquisition, total balance of marketing and sales, right? And total investment as a percentage of gross profit. So while it's not prescriptive, it at least starts getting you to ask the right questions. But then second, what ROI should be reverse engineered from the goal. And so what is your goal? What percentage of that is booked business? Separate that out from net new. Okay, how many proposals do we have to win out of the net new number? How many meetings do we have to get in order to write proposals? There are known, or you can make healthy, educated guesses around what you need. And if you tell marketing, hey, I need you to help me go get 4, 10, 40 qualified discovery meetings a month, marketing can do that. If you say to marketing, go help me hit $10 million in revenue, they cannot do that because the translation hasn't been made, right? So clarifying what metrics and what real leading indicator, which is a qualified meeting, right? Pipeline numbers. A great B2B marketing team, and especially a great B2B CMO, can definitely do that. So it's really about that unity on understanding what are the numbers, what are the plans and the operational assumptions behind them, and then translating that into something marketing can actually hit, and then balancing that with what's a reasonable investment that we are capable of making based on gross profit and net profit. And then how do we do that, and how do we maximize that budget across our total spend? So for right now, I'm just prescribing a framework and a set of conversations to have, but I am super passionate and I am writing this book. So I'm going to get a lot more prescriptive in the next year and a half over this.
Awesome. Thank you. Dacia, how are AI tools and automation impacting the way sales teams engage with marketing today?
Oh my gosh. Okay, where to even start? So, automation is a non negotiable today. But let me back up from automation. Automation is not very effective if the sales team is not effectively using their CRM. Tech stack, marketing and sales metrics have to connect. If a marketing leader cannot see the health of a pipeline, there is no conversation that can happen about real return on investment, real impact on revenue, and real speed to revenue. Use your doggone CRM. All right. Now off my soapbox.
How do you really feel about that?
I know, exactly, right? But off my soapbox, also, who's a better writer? Marketers or salespeople? Marketers, right? So marketing, if they're aligned with sales and having healthy conversations around messaging, can be writing pre-written amazing follow-ups that sales can then take and copy and paste and customize, and using best practices based on behavioral economics and all sorts of things that help you win the war on attention and get emails read and voicemails read, and meetings booked. And so there's so many interesting things, and those can be automated. Tasks can be automated into follow-up. Then we can see like the quality of leads and what sales did, how many touches. We can say like what are additional things that we can do to nurture with either pre-qualified or qualified. There's so many things that automation can do, but it is 100% dependent on sales and marketing being in alignment and agreement about the handoff, about what it takes to get a lead into the pipeline, and then what the handoff is, and then how many touches it takes. Because the average that they're saying is it takes between 5 to 12 points of follow-up and touches to close a deal. And sometimes that's across 8 to 13 decision makers. It's a lot. So automation, absolute non-negotiable. Now, regarding AI helps us write faster. Doesn't always help us to write better, right?
Faster, but not better.
Yeah. So, for instance, one of the things that we love to tell people is you have buyer personas, documented criteria about your target market and assumptions that you make about why you and what they're facing, what challenges they're facing. Have everybody have a standard prompt and make it long, and then copy and paste that into your ChatGPT or, Claude or whichever one you're using, so that your entire sales team and marketing team are using core assumptions to get better. You should also be copying and pasting your brand guidelines, the tone and the voice, like how we approach, how we want to feel, like how we need to differentiate. Wow. Now that's when AI gets really good, but that consistency across branding puts the wind at everybody's back, and it increases authenticity and believability and even better familiarity, because familiarity is a brain shortcut. And when you feel familiar, and then when your sales team hops on and feels like, wow, I really know these guys, oof, that's stacking the deck in your favor big time. But that consistency across the team can save money, but also dramatically propel you inside of that sales success, inside of the pipeline, inside of real conversations. So, and I could go on and on, but I'm going to pause there because there's a lot to unpack with AI and automation.
So, Dacia, are traditional marketing funnels dead or just evolving? And how should sales professionals think about the buyer's journey now?
Oh my gosh, love this question. And thank you. I don't think people are asking this enough. So, no, traditional marketing funnels are not dead. Yes, you have to be way smarter, right? So, the call to action has to have to be something the audience wants to receive and something they want to give, right? So, there's a lot of dated thinking about gating things and, oh gosh, my competitors are going to read this. Who cares? Your secret sauce is usually not as secret as you think it is. And secondly, your secret sauce is how you actually deliver that. So we are a great example. I mean, I literally have a book as a DIY, like written point by point, exactly what we do. So we have so much stuff public. People don't know how to do it. Like, right? Like, our competitors don't know how to deliver it in our way. And even if they start to, we are years and years and years ahead of them and constantly improving that. Right. And so I think fear does not prosper us. And so I think, like that fearful, like, oh God, we can't show this, that's got to get out of our marketing funnels. And then also you just have to pay attention to the data. I want people to launch early and launch often, right? Because data is critical in learning what's working. Don't think just because you don't like webinars doesn't mean your market doesn't like webinars. And I see this from leadership teams all the time. Like, I'm never on LinkedIn. Doesn't mean your prospects aren't, right? And
True.
we just have this tendency to assume that what we are and what we think is the only thing that works, unless you are a spitting image of your buyer persona. Sometimes that happens, but not very frequently. Then you really need to think, who are they? Where do they go for information? What do they want? We have seen some major yo-yoing back and forth around webinars as an example. So they were wildly popular during COVID. Then we all got super burned out on Zoom and super burned out on webinars. And now we're back and webinars are rocking it inside of extremely long, yes, very long, high value email nurture sequences are crushing right now. And I'm like, wow, but they're opted in, they're super high value. The call to action and the content is extremely well thought out. And the goal is to be delivering content to the audience where they think, why haven't I heard this before? Wow, like I haven't been able to get this answer. Like you have to be that good at knowing your audience. And then hello, it sells itself. The other thing is that a lot of times people abandon ship on a marketing funnel too early, right? So I'm going to go back to webinars. It's not the only thing working. It's just top of mind because it's working so well lately, is that you need to have consistency as the priority. So launch the first webinar and assume a little bit of success, right? Launch the second webinar, assume a little bit more. Launch the third webinar. Again, each one slightly improved by data, not reinventing the wheel, improving a headline, improving promotion, improving the nurture, improving the targeting. So little tiny tweaks. By number 3, you probably are starting to build a predictable and sustainable system that is really going to resonate with people for a consistent amount of time. And then later, when you see it drop off, oh, buyer behavior is changing. Maybe we need to go back to the whiteboard or test something out or add something new because that's no longer working. And just the pace of change in marketing, I would argue, is possibly faster than any other aspect of business, and it's never going to slow down. So being data driven and just very curious about what people are responding to is the only way to consistently win and build a predictable and sustainable pipeline.
That's awesome. Dacia, what is your take on content strategy in 2025? What's working and what's getting ignored?
Oh my gosh, be interesting. Humans don't get ignored. Points of view don't ignored. Hearts don't get ignored, right? And bringing content that is truly valuable, like the kind of advice you would give your best friend if they were going to buy, that does not get ignored. Bringing really quality humor, emotion, anything like that doesn't get ignored. Standard products and features and benefits do get ignored. Showing posts about your team, oh my gosh, engagement is amazing. Showing posts about your trade show booth, not so much, right? And so basically any of the stuff that's easy to do and that you've been rinsing and repeating, you're not even following that, guys. I just want people to be like, what catches your attention? ding, 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 ding. That style is probably what it takes to break through. And I really do want B2B companies just taking cues from business to consumer. Like, you don't have to have that Super Bowl quality level, but you do need to be follow worthy, right? And so putting more human content out there is so, so critical. Pictures of people, video of people, quotes of people, points of view, even opinions. That is what's follow worthy. And so I really want to see resonant, and B2C is a great place to get some inspiration from.
Excellent. So with buyer skepticism at an all-time high, how can marketing better support trust building for sales teams?
Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, skepticism is a very good friend to you if you're a bold and tenacious and following up consistently salesperson. Because here's the deal. Every single buyer is skeptical. I don't care how amazing your brand is. I don't care what your reputation is. They, in their own buying patterns and buying committees, have skepticism. That's healthy. What is not healthy is when you are so scared of it that you don't become their partner in it. So I really love when both marketing, especially when it's getting closer to that lead handoff, and when sales is brave enough to really say, a lot of people are concerned about this, or we've had clients that had skepticism around this, or even proposing an idea that is going to bring skepticism, and then lean into that and go, you know what, you might be skeptical about that, and you should. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why I learned that or what the data is saying, right? But really lean into that, because the choice is either you're a partner in their skepticism or they're having it silently without you, and it is either going to kill you or it's going to benefit you, but you'll never know. And then you can't use that in the future, and you can't learn from that. So I really love skepticism. And then final point about that, the psychology of skepticism, you get focused on people. It forces your brain to think critically and to block out distractions. We are in a war on attention. That is your real competition. And so deciding to truly engage on that level of humanity, meaning buyers, especially B2B buyers, are not going zippity doodle, I'm so excited to buy software today, or I'm so excited to buy this thing that's giving me a headache. No. So skepticism and nervousness, and how is this going to hurt my career? How do I sell this into my buying committee? Or, your competitor saying something really different. How do I understand what's actually important? Oh my gosh, like, just to be an oasis of clarity and not wasting people's time, that's differentiation in action. So I hope that answered your question, because I'm like, no, don't be scared of skepticism. It's so good, actually.
Awesome. No, that really answered tons of value, and we're only 15 minutes into the podcast. I'd like to morph now into the sales marketing alignment. What are some of the most common gaps you see between sales and marketing teams? You've talked a little bit about them. Give me the top 2 or 3.
Okay, so I'm going to do 3, and I'm going to come from couple different perspectives.
Sure.
One is at the leadership level, where the translation between dollars and humans has not happened, right? So sales does think in terms of dollars, but what they don't realize they're doing is they're also thinking, good salespeople are thinking in terms of activity, number of proposals, number of meetings. And a really talented salesperson, and especially talented sales manager, knows the more things you have, the more momentum it creates. And it's all about the right activity and consistency. So they are translating dollars into meetings, into follow-ups, into like human touch points. And so that needs to get translated down to marketing. But at the leadership level, they don't do that. So leadership has a tendency to say, I want more profit and more sales. Those don't always coexist, right? Or leadership is too impatient to want to hear leading indicators like number of meetings, number of quality meetings. They just kind of go blah, 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 blah if they're not talking. So there is a big difference in a culture of unity around growth, right? And so building a culture of growth is really critical. Like I'll kind of wrap this one up by saying there's a huge difference between, so when do we think we're going to get sales? And it's inviting a real conversation around marketing pipeline, sales pipeline, and real projections versus, so when are we going to see results, right? Like, And that's a culture thing. And it starts with leadership and the tone and the ability to have the patience to have really game-changing conversations where everybody gets aligned around the definition of a lead and the definition of winning. So culturally. Now, down at more the tactical level, the CRM and the automation is so frequently broken. And it's the handoff and the agreement between what is the definition of a qualified lead. Doug, we have seen remarkable transformation by simply fixing this one thing, where marketing defined a lead like this and sales defined a lead like that. And so then sales wouldn't work the leads, and marketing's getting so mad because we're driving tons of leads and sales is like, too many for me to bother with. They're probably garbage. And that tiny little gap is flushing all of your return on investment and all of your you need to eat down the toilet. So be getting super clear and then working together to agree on that definition, because the likelihood is that marketing and sales are not going to agree. And we need to get closer, and we need to go, what is a marketing qualified lead? What's a sales qualified lead? What bridges that? And then start brainstorming, what would it take, right? And so if we need to move a marketing qualified, we need to nurture them more. Okay. If we need to take one salesperson and assign them for a temporary amount of time, that they are the follow-up, mechanism for every single marketing lead, good, do that, but you need to clarify, what do we know? What do we not know? And how do we bridge that gap? So tactically, massive, massive game changer, and a very rapid one, as long as you can get sales and marketing talking and brainstorming instead of finger pointing. And so that's a really, really big deal. And then the final component is tied to the top one, and it's that marketers do need to start thinking in a framework of sales. So leading activities around pipeline, how do we get meetings? What are our lead sources, right? And using language that both leadership and sales can associate with, and that can help both brainstorm, right? Like they need to be asking sales, what do they think? And marketers really, really need to learn to manage up and clearly communicate the role of marketing and not accidentally turn into a sales enablement order taking burned out machine, because nobody's happy with that. Even if you're giving people what they say they want, you're not. Nobody even wants leads. People want revenue. They want success.
Exactly.
They want growth. They want new clients. They don't want impressions. They don't even want leads, right? It's just that people are falsely using words. And so, it goes right back to, we're all on the same team. And now let's really take those baby steps to make sure that we understand each other. We're using the same semantics and that we have a clear definition of winning, that we can be excited for each other.
Excellent. Thank you. Dacia, I met you when I was the fractional sales leader for the organization, when you came in from the marketing blender. This whole fractional space, CFO, fractional CMO, fractional chief revenue officer, seems to be exploding, and that part of our business at the Sales Coaching Institute is the biggest slice of revenue. How can fractional CMOs help bridge the strategy execution gap between marketing and sales?
Oh man, this one's so tricky. All right. Not all of them can. Not all fractional CMOs are created equal. And Doug, I hate to be ugly, and I really don't mean this.
No, be raw and be honest, please.
You were in the fractional game years before it got hot, and so was I. And I think the fractional thing happened to us both in the same way. The market said to us, so you're like kind of like an outsourced or a fractional leader. And both of us were like, yeah, actually, yeah. Right. And then that word years later, especially post-COVID, started to pick up on some momentum. And so there's a lot of people going out and calling themselves fractionals, and they're not. And so you've got to really look at their case studies and where did they shine. And not all great marketing leaders have the same strengths also, right? And so, for instance, there are some CMOs that are amazing at brand. They have a tendency to be amazing on the B2C side. They might be really amazing at research, right? And they're amazing at influencing strangers. That is very different from being somebody who knows how to fill a pipeline and clean up a CRM and a marketing tech stack and work with a, excuse my language, pain in the ass head of VP of sales that is like going so fast that you have to learn how to like get them to slow down and to really want to have a unified conversation and be in lockstep, right? And I don't mean all heads of sales are like that, but that is the nature. And a lot of times for B2B CMO, we have been in those situations where we are like the redheaded stepchild, and you had to learn how to manage and communicate peer to peer. And that happens in the trenches. And so I think the fractional, aspect is here to stay. I think it should be. The ROI is insane. Really talented fractional leaders have zero ability to be like, you know what, I'm going to take 6 months and walk the halls and ask people what they think. No. If I am not driving results within 3 to 6 months, I'm fired. So are you, right?
Exactly.
So the speed to revenue is insane. The ability to dramatically transform and like nail down decision-making criteria that leadership teams have never been able to do. And even if that fractional eventually helps you hire the in-house person, you didn't wait for your superstar to show up. You built a successful system. And I think that's the key, Doug. A really talented B2B fractional is going to be thinking system building, not tactics. And so then you can have them come in, build a system. And even when you hire internally, now your new person's set up with a system of success that they can come in and optimize. That is growing and scaling, and really creating strategic advantage versus just hoping a superstar shows up and you figured it out, and your hiring and firing process worked well, So I don't know if that answered your question,
it did.
but man, there's a lot going on in this environment right now.
Dacia, how do you recommend aligning messaging and value propositions across marketing and sales channels?
Oh, love this question. Okay. So the number one thing is that in business to business, messaging has to go on a journey because the buyer goes on a journey. So what you say the first time somebody is checking you out, researching you, even if it's on a referral, that is very different than what sales needs to be saying at the end of a sales process and when they're getting closer to closing. So we love deploying something called sales mapping. And really what it is it's uncovering the assumptions we have about the buyer's journey. And so I want listed, what are all the ways that people ever hear about your name? Now, inside of those tactics that generate awareness and generate interest, the messaging there should be fully focused on their pains, what they care about, what they're researching. And here's the interesting thing, especially in B2B, these are sophisticated products and services. Sometimes they're researching the wrong words. That's okay. You want to show up inside the spaces on how they define their problem. So translating in your messaging, like symptom to root cause too early is a pipeline killer. So you really have to mirror. And I mean mirror, like mirrors don't translate. They literally just repeat back in image and in description the pain. And most B2B decisions are to solve a right? Like, yeah, they might be hidden as goal achievement. And those are good things to test in your marketing, but they should be fast. It should be rapid. It should be super focused on them because they're like, is this about me? I'm researching this. I only have 30 minutes to look into this, right? So then as you keep moving and messaging continues to go on that journey, now you're in trust building. Now you got to get really clear on what the buyer needs in order to be like, they're the real deal. It's usually not what sales thinks, and I hate to say that. And just having sales and marketing in a conversation where they're talking about what are the common questions that a prospect asks and what are the common follow-ups and what really works and that type of thing, you can really pull out a lot of friction and a lot of like time wasters by clarifying what they need and sometimes even moving things around. Like sometimes there's ways you can add value earlier in that process because you know what's coming next and you can train sales to really help, again, pave that path of progress. And then you can figure out where can marketing really support sales in that nurture process and add touches that really put the wind. And then I want to see closing choreographed. No one gets a verbal yes and money miraculously jumps into your corporate account. Never, right? Maybe there's a pre-proposal or a rough estimate or a verbal estimate. Maybe there's an estimate or negotiation or a specification or an RFP or a site visit or price negotiations, or maybe you need a PO, maybe you need terms and conditions. Hello, this is why it takes 5 to 12 points of contact to close a deal. And there's buying committee elements and there's, technical specification reviews. And I really want that quote unquote closing journey choreographed, because if it's not written down and agreed upon, you can't automate it, you can't clean it up, you can't improve it, and you can't add value to the buyer and helping them to get an efficient buying process. And so messaging needs to change from rapid and mirroring, and then clarity on how they see value and progress and trust. And then when we get to closing the deal, messaging needs to sound like this: we've done this a million times for people just like you, with problems just like yours, and they now live happily ever after with the exact vision of success you have. And I even love when messaging starts to move into onboarding and vision casting to get them out of fear, because the best don't always win. The best removing fear always wins. And so you've got to go from excitement and curiosity in the beginning to calming it down and professionalism and truly guiding them like a master of your craft, which you are. B2B is not easy, so that they can have an efficient buying process, and it sets them up for an amazing client experience.
Excellent. Last question before we get into the bowels of Fractional CMO Insights. Dacia, what role does brand storytelling play in the sales process today, and how should salespeople use it?
Okay, I love it. So this is actually in lockstep with that messaging question. People too often lead with their brand story. No, 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 no. They do not care about you. And even that amazing old book, Start with the Why, I hate the title. You don't start with why in the sales messaging. Now, you might start with why internally when you're building your brand narrative, but you do not start a sales cycle like that, because they don't care. Now, later, when they are asking, are you who you say you are? And can I trust you? And do I like you? And do I want to be your partner? That's when that stuff really shows up. And here's why. Your brand story is not about you. It's about building their confidence that they can make an amazing decision. So they are literally asking themselves, like, are they just good salespeople? Are they just sly? Or are they just good as they seem? Like, can I trust this? And so then when you're like, well, we are a purpose-driven company, or this is our why, or this is how we were founded, or this was the horrifying story that broke it open and taught us everything, and this is why we're so different. That is actually helping that person to go, I knew I could make a good decision. I knew I could trust you. I knew I could trust myself. And that proves that what I heard from you makes sense about why you are a master of your craft, right? And so I love brand messaging. I love branding, but it's not about you. It's about being familiar and gifting people with confidence and progress. And so it is always a gift that you give to them, because most sales are lost to no decision, not a competitor. Right? And so gifting them and making sure that you are helping them own the confidence and the momentum and the urgency that they need. That's really the role that I want brand story to play, is confidence.
Excellent. So let's get in the bowels of Fractional CMO Insights from a Fractional CMO. Dacia, why do you think more companies are turning to fractional CMOs rather than hiring full-time chief marketing officers?
Absolutely. Okay, so on the B2B side, most people don't know what a CMO is supposed to do. So to go into a fractional one is really, really smart. Even just the sales process of interviewing different CMOs, holy cow, will clean up your ideas about what a CMO needs to do for your company really quickly. Because when you hire full-time, the responsibility is on you. Did you get the job description right? Did you get the metrics right? Did you clearly set expectations? And I feel like if you have a real fractional CMO, they're partnering with you. And this happens frequently, where what a client thinks they want is not what they need, right? And then we can go through a process of validation and exploration, from the numbers to the data to the research to the targeting parameters and all of those different things, and really bring healthy skepticism versus, hey boss, I just want to make you happy. Like, am I doing a good job? Are you sure that you know? And so I really like that. Also, the average chief marketing officer on both business to consumer and business to business, they only stay for about 2.5 years.
Really?
Yeah. So the tenure is really short. Marketers are extremely burned out right now. There is so much change in marketing, and the expectations that a company sets you up with in a healthy way or setting you up for failure can be really, really dangerous. And I really do think that the fractional component is a little self-protective on both sides, right? Because I said it before, if you and I don't drive results, we're fired with no risk to that client except a little
Right.
bit of waste of time, right? Like, so I think that there's just so much healthy accountability there that that you can get. And again, it's a fraction of that amount, none of the overhead, da 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 da. But just there's just so much integrity there, and there has to be so much curiosity. And I mean, obviously, I'm super, super biased, but there's just a lot broken in marketing right now. And if you hire the wrong person, it's going to take you a long, long time to figure out whether or not they really saw the truth for what it needed to be for you.
Excellent. Dacia, what types of businesses benefit most from bringing on a fractional CMO?
Oh my gosh, great question. So I'm going to flip it a little bit. The best clients for a fractional CMO are saying, I don't know what I need. They're saying, we hit a plateau. It used to work. It didn't, or we're crushing it, but I have no idea why. Like, I don't know what levers to pull. Like, I'm kind of scared. Like, do we just have the wind at our back? We're throwing all this stuff out there. How do we untangle the spaghetti of metrics and ROI? And, am I spending a healthy amount? Right? I don't know what I don't know. So there's typically like this openness where it's like, I need answers. And so really, so it's a little bit less on the size of a company. Now, if I'm speaking plainly, profitable, stable small business and a mid-market company that is privately held, let's go. Because you have resources and attention, time, and money. Your ATM is full. And so then that aggressive insight and that aggressive point of view around, I've got to drive results for this company right now, they're going to appropriately deploy resources that you have because you're wanting to scale, right? So that can be really, really, I mean, just so exciting. I mean, we have so many case studies that are almost embarrassing to say out loud because people won't believe them, right? Like going from a $1 million profitable company by a serial entrepreneur to 17 million in 3 years, right?
Wow.
Using only marketing. I mean, going from a $25 million company that has been at a 7-year sales plateau to a $40 million company in 2 years and having like a game-changing multiplier when they exited 5 years later, and just so many exciting. So that scaling is really the sexy part because you have resources. However, the I don't know component is still a game changer no matter what. We work with a number of solopreneurs and coaches where we know we're going to graduate them. Like we're going to come in and we're going to clarify social media will not drive you leads, but this over here will. And we're going to give you a plan and we're going to clarify the resources and we're going to push you out of the nest in order to go be successful. And so it really, for me, is about high levels of integrity and accountability if you stay with them long-term, but no matter what, high levels of clarity. The one thing you cannot invite into a fractional CMO relationship is fear. If you do not believe in them and you do not believe in the process they are outlining, you will absolutely sniper and sabotage everything that's possible. And there needs to be really healthy accountability. If I can sniff out a sniper, like we won't work for them. We won't. Like they've got to bring in confidence as well as that intention to invest attention and time, right? And then the sky's the limit. But if you don't start with unity, like don't bother.
Excellent. Last question before we get into my favorite part of the podcast, rapid fire question round.
Let's go.
Last question. What advice do you have for a sales leader considering whether to advocate for a fractional CMO internally?
Oh, goodness gracious. So if they are looking internally, the sales leader really needs clarity on what's the real problem. And then inside of the hiring process, they need to feel insane amounts of confidence that either that CMO can find the problem and truly understand sales and is asking the right questions, or if that sales leader has a lot of clarity what the real problem is, that CMO has specialized in that problem. So let me give you a couple different examples.
Please.
There's a very big difference between we need more leads versus we need quality leads. And so are we having the right conversation around that? The sales leader needs to have incredible amount of integrity around, is there a CRM in place where they can dig around in the data. And when a CMO is asking them, they're not going to get defensive. They're going to really invite that investigation and that partnership so that the CMO gets up to speed faster. But then also, if there's any hidden hemorrhaging happening in the sales pipeline, that they're not protective, that they're open and really committed to those results, right? Because if your win-loss ratio is not strong, a smart CMO is like, no, we fix that first. We don't just pour stuff in a pipeline. We don't do leaky buckets here, And so I really want that salesperson to be ready for what that looks like. And then healthy iron sharpening iron, right? But there's got to be that CMO's got to really understand the sales cycle. The sales leaders got to really want that CMO as a part of that. And then there needs to be very rapid agreement around where's the real problem, how do we fill the pipeline, and then how do we maximize revenue, including cross-sells, upsells, client retention, referral marketing, all sorts of stuff. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully I'm getting specific. So
it helped a lot. All right, rapid fire questions. 10 questions. One word answer or a short phrase. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Rapid fire questions. What's one marketing buzzword that needs to go?
Conversions.
Favorite marketing campaign of all time?
Stand Strong by Ameritex Pipe Products.
Excellent. Coffee, tea, or green smoothie?
Coffee.
LinkedIn or email? What gets better B2B engagement?
This year, email.
Excellent. What book do you gift most often?
Steal Like an Artist.
One word your clients use to describe you?
Hyper.
Most underrated marketing channel in 2025?
Webinars.
The biggest myth about marketing you wish you could debunk?
All social media is good social media.
Who inspires or inspired your leadership style?
Jesus.
Excellent. And lastly, if you weren't in marketing, what would you be doing?
Launching another business.
Excellent. Serial entrepreneur. Thank you, Dacia. It has been a high honor and privilege to have you on the Best Sellers podcast. I know I learned an incredible amount, and I know our listeners will be learning a lot too. Dacia, if any of the listeners or viewers want to get a hold of you, how can they get in contact with you, and tell us a little bit about your new book? Or I know you've written several books, but tell us about your new book and then how people can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So they can find us at themarketingblender.com. And we also have a YouTube show and podcast called The Marketing Blender Show, all about B2B marketing, of course. My book is called Corporate Caffeine, and it's about sales and marketing alignment. It's written as a do-it-yourself, and I'm a wildly impatient business person, so this is a rapid read. So those are the big ones. They can reach me personally at Dacia, Dacia, at themarketingblender.com.
Excellent. Where's your book available? On Amazon?
Amazon, Audible, Barnes & Noble, any of the major ones.
Cool. Again, our guest has been Dacia Coffey with The Marketing Blender. Thanks so much. Be sure to check us out on thebestsellerspodcast.com. And I'm Doug Dvorak, founder and managing principal of the Sales Coaching Institute, your podcast navigator. Carpe diem. If you made it all the way here, thank you for listening to the Best Sellers Podcast, your ultimate destination for winning sales strategy. We hope you loved this episode. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcast platform to never miss an episode. See you on the next one.